Thanks for watching Afternoon Live. If you are at your wits' end with your child's bedroom, our next guest is here to help. Here with creative storage solutions when you're short on space, we welcome back the author of Tidy Up Your Life, the Tidy Dad himself, Tyler Moore. Great to see you, Tyler.
Thanks, Hannah. And I guess the question is, are you at your wits' end with your children's
I
bedroom?
am. You know that I am. We both have young kids, and I do feel like a lot of people feel this way. I have some storage solutions, but there's just so many bits and bobs everywhere. It feels overwhelming. How can all of this have a place?
I think one of the questions to ask is the primary function of the bedroom. Is it going to be a play space or is it just a place where your kids sleep and also store their clothes? And I think foundational to that is this question of how are they actually using the space? And a big question that really helped to solve our organizational puzzle did revolve around play. And is the bedroom where play is happening? And I'm not talking about right before they're supposed to be asleep. I'm talking about where the toys are actually stored. And so I think that that can be a really powerful place to start.
And then what about taking advantage of spaces that maybe are already there, but we're just not utilizing? Like I think about that space, maybe that top shelf of the closet. I don't even know what's up there right now.
So I do think when it comes to kids and organization, you want to think about what you want them to have access to versus not. And so with our daughters and their wardrobes, the hand-me-downs, for example, we get to those at the end of every season as we're switching over clothes. It's not something that they need for every day, as opposed to shoes or some of those accessories. The things that you want to have your kids to have access to, those are the things that you want to have down low. And then the other things you can place up much higher. Because in a kid's bedroom, like all spaces, organizational real estate is not all equal. And so you want to think about what is that prime real estate? What do you want your kids to have access to versus what do you want to have up and out of the way?
That's such a great solution there. What about coats and jackets and those things that do take up quite a bit of space?
They do. And I think that this is where you want to think about what are they using every day versus what is the stuff that you just get to when you're like getting bundled and or special occasions. So in our house, we have a rule where everybody has one coat directly by the door. It's literally on hooks on the very back of our entryway door. And then the other things that are extras. So you think those accessories, the sequined jackets, the jean jacket, even like the raincoats. Those are the types of things that we keep stored back in the bedroom because we're not using them all the time. You can't have access to every single coat at the same time, so you've got to establish some criteria of what is most important that goes by the door and then what's stored back in the bedroom.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, I know both of my kids have a major stuffed animal problem. They come in, they just keep accumulating. I can't get one out the door. What am I doing with all these stuffies?
So I don't know if this makes you feel better, but my wife just went through all of the stuffed animals with my daughters and they counted that they had over 100.
Oh,
So
I
passing
feel better. I feel seen.
now, this is when we've established this philosophy of choice within boundaries. So the girls get to choose the number or which stuffed animals they want to keep. But the boundary is this stuffed animal holder. It goes on the back of the door. I think that the back of doors are really underutilized organizational space. And so it has like 5 different pockets where they're able to put all the stuffed animals in. And the idea is when that organizer gets full, it is time to go through all of the stuffed animals. There are many reasons why kids hold on to them. It's a deeply sentimental item. I think that 100 is probably like 97 too many because I do have 3 children. But for right now in this season of life, I do feel like that over the door organizer is just a really handy solution.
That's so great. I also have one for my daughter. Tell me if you've seen this before, where it's an empty bean bag and you stuff it with stuffed animals and she sits in it and she cuddles and she opens it and takes out ones that she wants, and it does help save some space.
I think so. I think that that's a wonderful solution. And I feel like with kids stuff, you really have to think flexibly and you have to think about the fact that many of these items are deeply sentimental to our kids. And so often we want to go in and completely clear the space, get rid of the stuff when they're gone. But we do want to give kids agency over what stays and what goes. Obviously, again, that choice is within boundaries. But even with that chair that you're talking about, which I've seen them, it's almost like this huge empty bean bag that you're able to fill. There is an amount of stuffed animals that can be held there. It may be close to 100, but it's not 500. And when you go out, it's trying to steer your kids towards other I don't know, sort of souvenirs that aren't of the stuffed animal variety. They don't need that many.
True. The limit does exist. Okay, let's talk about having labels, especially on containers where you can easily find stuff.
Yeah. So, labels on containers, I feel like this is a really practical solution. They make all of these really snazzy label makers, but the idea is that when you have toys sorted into smaller and organized into smaller categories, it makes that feeling of everything just being piled on top of one another so much less. And so I feel like with this, especially when kids are of reading age, they're able to grab and go with the toys that they want to play with. You can set up a rotation. If you have kids that aren't readers yet, you can also just print out little images of the toy that's inside of it or cut it off of the box as you're recycling and throwing those things away. Use some packing tape, put it on the outside of the container, and then the kid's able to see what is inside of the toy. Because the idea is that we don't want our kids to have access to all of the toys at one time, because what happens is there's this huge mess that seems like a little walking tornado has just gone through your house. And so instead, by having this rotation, it helps to keep things fresh. The kids have a little bit of choice and agency, but the labels, whether it be the pictures or the printed, can definitely help.
I love that. The walking tornado sounds very familiar to me. Okay, and then what about vertical space, like hanging things on the wall that you might not think of?
Yeah, so we have these new. So one is hooks. Obviously, hooks are really handy for headphones, but they also make all of these new frames where you're able to put multiple of your child's artwork. You can actually store it directly in the frame, and then you can open it up and just sort of switch it out. I do feel like vertical space, even in a kid's room, we have a triple bunk where the girls are stacked triple high. It helps to open up that floor space, and so with kids, go vertical. Think about the back of doors, think about wardrobes, think about how you can add hooks or baskets or bins. I feel like walls are very valuable organizational space, and you can add some handy things without bringing in the bulk of all of this furniture.
There you go. Such good stuff. We're going to tackle a new project this week. Thank you so much, Tyler. It was great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Tyler's book again is Tidy Up Your Life. We'll have more information on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.